And then you have hydrohalogenation. And then you have hydration. And halogenation, as well as the presence of contaminant, which is the peroxide. Okay, the last one, okay, which we have not discussed is the halohydrine reaction. Okay, so to compare these two reactions, okay, with halogenation, like for example here, if you have propene, you react this with bromine, okay? You will end up with vicinal halides, okay? And this kind of reaction class is very important because used to identify the presence of alkenes and alkynes, no? You call the test in the lab decolorization test, no? Test for alkenes and alkynes. Because the bromine, no, has the bromine has an orange color. So once it is added to the double bond as alkyl halide, the color of bromine decolorizes, okay? And bromine will not react with aromatic and alkane, no? So that's why if you are given an unknown in the lab, no, you can identify whether your unknown is alkene or alkyne because it will decolorize, okay? So that's why the process is what you call decolorization test. So this is usually done in the presence of nonpolar solvent because bromine is nonpolar and your alkene is also nonpolar. Now, what will happen if you're going to replace the solvent, okay, and you use water? So you call that bromine water, okay? The resulting major product will not be 1,2-dibromopropane, okay, but a halohydrine product, okay, a product with an OH and a halogen, okay. So that would be the major product, meaning the 1,2-dibromo becomes the minor. How is that formed? So we have to go back to the mechanism of the reaction, okay? So take note that your electrophile here is the Br+. So when you have the bromine, okay, the pi electron will interact with that, and this one will break away as Br-. So that's why your bromine, okay, is a Br+ electrophile. So you have this naked carbonium ion, but then because the bromine is a big atom, and it has a lot of electrons in it. This one will be attracted to the positive carbonium ion, generating a cyclic intermediate instead of an open carbonium ion intermediate. Okay, so you have the bromine here partially attached to the carbon, but the carbonium ion character is still there. So now there is a competition. Okay. Water as a nucleophile versus bromide as a nucleophile. Okay. The bromine is a solute. Your water is a solvent. So you have a lot of water molecules. So that's why this can compete. So this is the one that will attack the carbonium ion, and this one will break away. That's why you will end up with that product. Okay. Now take note that the bromination reaction as well as chlorination reaction is described as trans-addition reaction or anti-addition reaction, while the hydrogenation reaction is a cis addition. Okay, this one has a very important bearing, no? Especially if your bond will not rotate. Like for example, if you have cyclohexene, no problem with that product there, because although the mechanism is anti-addition, as you can see here, for water, it is attacking at the bottom rather than on top. That is what you mean by anti-addition. So if it is an open, no problem, because this single bond can rotate. So there is no trans product after all. But if you talk about cyclohexene, okay, and you react this with water, I mean in the presence of water. Now, since the mechanism is anti-addition, you will end up really with a trans product like this. Take note that a disubstituted cyclohexane can produce or can exhibit geometric isomerism, cis and trans. Now, because of the mechanism of the reaction, the product that is formed is only trans. There will be no cis product, okay? So that is halodihydrine reaction. And for cyclic intermediate class, there is no rearrangement, okay? There is no rearrangement. But for naked carbonium ion intermediate, like in the hydrohalogenation reaction, bromination, hydration reaction, they produce a naked carbonium ion. Like here, okay, if you have let us say you have this alkene, and you subject this to hydration reaction. Following Markovnikov's rule, okay, the addition of H plus to the carbon containing the greater number of hydrogen we expect this product if we follow Markovnikov's rule. There. But if we trace the mechanism of the reaction here, the intermediate of this is naked carbonium ion, meaning open. You have this carbonium ion here, and this is CH3. That is what you mean by naked carbonium ion. Because this is open, This is subject to rearrangement to form a more stable carbonium ion. And look what happened if this electron of hydrogen, carbon, will move here. Okay. You will end up with a tertiary carbonium ion, which we know is more stable than a secondary carbonium ion. This is the one that will be attacked by the water to generate the alcohol product. So that's why your major product now is not this one. Okay. This will be the major product. You have the OH here because of rearrangement. Okay. And this kind of rearrangement is what you call hydride shift. Okay. If this is methyl, if the hydrogen is methyl, that can also transfer. So you call that methide shift. Okay. So this can happen if the carbonium ion is open, no? Like in hydration and hydrohalogenation reaction. But in bromination reaction class, there is no rearrangement. You know why? Because the intermediate is cyclic. Okay, the carbonium ion is not open. So you have to be very careful. Okay, so therefore, supposing you want to produce the unrearranged product, you cannot use this method of hydration because you will always end up with the rearranged product. If you want to hydrate the alkene without rearrangement, we have to use another method, no? And you call that, okay, oxymercuration, demercuration process. So in oxymercuration, demercuration process class, okay, we change the catalyst. No? So going back to our reaction, you have CH3 here. You have CH3. You have hydrogen. And you have a double bond. So if you add water, okay, and this time you have to use mercuric acetate. Okay, so this is the first reagent, okay, followed by water. But there is a second reagent that you need, okay, which is sodium borohydride to complete the process. This reaction will still follow Markovnikov's rule. So if you use that reagent, there will be no rearrangement. So definitely you will have OH here and CH3. That will be the product. Okay. Now, if you want the anti-Markovnikov product, okay, you know, I discussed anti-Markovnikov in the first topic, okay, the one that I sent you. If you want the anti-Markovnikov, meaning the OH or the H plus will go to the carbon with less numbers, so H plus will be here instead of going to the carbon with more hydrogen. Okay. So if you want the H plus to be here and the OH here, okay, you cannot use the oxymercuration, demercuration. Okay. you have to use another reagent, which is borohydride, okay? And then you have, of course, water in the presence of hydrogen peroxide, okay, under basic condition, okay? So this will produce the anti-Markovnikov product, okay? Wherein the CH, the H plus will be here, and the OH will be at the end. That is against the Markovnikov's rule. No? So that's why it's called anti-Markovnikov. So you call this borohydration reaction. So you notice these two reagents, okay, are used to hydrate, no, alkenes without rearrangement. Okay. Now you can also use other nucleophile class, no? Like for example, in here in mercuric acetate, we use water, no? If you're going to replace that with a different nucleophile, like replacing this, okay, instead of using water, if you use water, of course, you produce alcohol. Now, supposing you use methanol, your nucleophile is the methoxy. So you will end up with an ether product, okay, instead of alcohol. There is no rearrangement again, but this will be OCH3. Okay, instead of alcohol, you have ether. There, okay? So there are no rearrangements for these two reactions, okay? But if you don't use this, no, you use sulfuric acid, there will be a rearrangement, okay? So take note of that, no? Now, how about the alkynes? The alkynes will exhibit the same process, no, as alkene, except that since there are two pi bonds, this will require more reactants, no? Like for example, if you subject this to bromination reaction, then you need 2 moles of bromine to really remove all the pi bonds. So you have bromine here, bromine, and then you have another bromine and another bromine there, okay? Now, if you have, if you use HBr, okay, you need the excess of this, no? Excess or 2 moles of that. And this can follow Markovnikov's rule, no? Because you still have hydrogen here. So you will end up with CH3 here. And then all the Br will be here, no? Because of Markovnikov's rule. And you have CH3, okay? So the two halogens are in the same carbon. So you call that gem halides, okay? Now, supposing you react this with water, okay? 1 mole of water. Okay, now, alkyne class, because of its sp hybridization, it has a greater S character. It's less reactive than alkene. You know, the alkene, the pi orbitals are more diffused. So they can easily react with electrophile. But for alkyne, it is less reactive, no? Like if you add water, okay, it's not enough, no? Even if you add an acid catalyst. So an additional reagent is used, like mercuric sulfate, just to enhance the pooling, no, of the pi electron, right? So if you have alkyne here, you hydrate that, You have to have that condition. So if you have water, okay, we expect this product class, in which only one pi bond is removed. So therefore, you will have CH2 here, and you have the OH here. There, okay? So you have two functional groups, alkene and alcohol. And you know what happens if a lone pair is adjacent to double bond? If a lone pair is adjacent to double bond, this will delocalize. There, okay? So generating CH3, this one becomes single bond. Your terminal carbon will become negative because the pi electron moves. You will have a double bond here, and your oxygen will become positive because one of the lone pairs delocalizes. Okay? And you have a negative carbon that will be attracted to the hydrogen. So this carbon ion will pick up the hydrogen, and the electron of hydrogen will go back to oxygen, neutralizing it. So you will end up with this product in which you have a ketone. There. Okay? Bakit mayroong hydrogen dito? Wala yan. There. Okay? So you call this process, okay, tautomerism. No? You have delocalization followed by rearrangement of atoms. Okay, you call that tautomerism. Specifically, keto, enol, tautomerism. Okay, so that is the expected product for alkyne. No, you have a ketone, except for acetylene. No, acetylene is the only alkyne that will give aldehyde rather than ketone. The rest will always produce a ketone. Okay. So here, okay, we see the reactions of alkynes and alkenes. They have similar reactions, except for the hydration reaction in which there is tautomerism observed. Okay, now, since the basis for the reaction is stability of the carbonium ion, for Markovnikov's rule, we use that to for reduce selectivity, no? Meaning, where are you going to attach the electrophile? And the basis for Markovnikov is the stability of the carbonium ion. That's why he came up with that rule. Okay? But sometimes there are structures which we cannot apply Markovnikov rule. So you really have to go back to the mechanism, okay? Because Markovnikov is a shortcut way, no, of predicting the stability of the carbonium ion. But supposing you have this one here, let's say you have this alkene containing an aromatic, like that, okay? So let us say you subject this to a hydrohalogenation reaction. Where are you going to place the electrophile? Okay? They have the same number of hydrogen. Right? So you cannot predict using Markovnikov's rule. But if you know the knowledge of the stability of carbonium ion, okay, if you're going to place the electrophile here, okay, the resulting intermediate will look like this. We'll have CH2 here, and the carbonium will be here, which is secondary carbonium. Okay. Now, if you're going to place the electrophile here, this is the resulting intermediate. You have CH plus, CH2, and CH3. And if you assess the stability of the two, this is secondary carbonium. This is secondary but benzylic carbonium, you see? And we discussed that in the first video, that a benzyl carbonium ion, especially the secondary, is very stable, more stable than tertiary. So therefore, we have to place the electrophile in this manner, and the expected product, therefore, will be this one. You will have your nucleophile here, chlorine. This will be your CH2, and this will be your CH3. There. Okay? Now, in some structures, no, we don't encounter only one double bond or one triple bond, but sometimes you have multiple bonds. Let's say you have dienes or you have alkenes and alkynes. So for example here, you have an alkyne here, okay? And then you have an alkene here, there. You know that these two have different reactivities. So let us say you react this with bromine, 1 mole only, 1 mole. They are isolated double, triple bonds, no? So the bromine has to choose which one is more reactive. Of course, this one is more reactive. So therefore, we expect this product. You have the Br here, like that. Okay? Now, supposing you have a conjugated dienes. Okay? A conjugated diene, okay, are dienes that have alternate double and single bonds, like 1,3 butadiene. Okay. What will happen if you react this with only 1 mole of HBr? Which one will react? Okay. So, do we expect only one product here? Following Markovnikov's rule, you will have H plus here and Br. So, you will have CH2 double bond, CH. And then you have Br, CH3. This is not the only product class. There is another product in which the Br will be here. And the double bond will be at the middle. And you have CH3. So you call this 1,2 product because you are adding it at 1 and 2. And this one is called 1,4 product. Okay. Why is that? Because when you add the electrophile here, you will end up with this carbonium, which is allylic. And if you recall in our discussion on pi electron delocalization, if the double bond is adjacent to carbonium ion, it will resonate. So we have another resonance structure for that. That's why you have a double bond here. And if this one is attacked by the nucleophile, you have the 1,4 product. Okay? Now, for this type of reactions now, the question is, which one is the major product? Is it the 1,2 or the 1,4? Okay. In organic reactions class, reaction can be controlled by kinetic conditions or by thermodynamic conditions. Okay? So for those reactions that are controlled by kinetics, you call that kinetic controlled reaction. And for thermodynamics, you call that thermodynamic controlled reactions. Okay? Kinetic controlled reaction usually happens if the reaction is irreversible class. Okay? An irreversible reaction usually happens at very low temperature, no? Because at very low temperature, most reactants cannot, once they form the product, they cannot go back. So the reaction becomes irreversible, okay? But if you raise the temperature, okay, they can surpass the barrier, the activation energy. So there is a possibility for the product to go back to the reactant at a higher temperature. So the reaction becomes reversible. Okay? Teka muna class ha. Wait for 1 minute. All right, sorry about that, class. Okay, so let's continue. So, most reactions, class, no? Okay. If the product is stable, okay, thermodynamically stable, we also expect that product to form at a faster rate, no? So kinetics and thermodynamics have synergistic effect on that reaction, no? The more stable the product, the faster, okay? Take note that these two concepts are different. Kinetic will predict how fast the reaction will happen. So we usually look at the barrier, no? The smaller the activation energy, the faster. The higher the activation energy, the slower, okay? But thermodynamics, we look at the stability of the reactant and product, okay? In thermodynamics, if the product has a very low energy, then it is very stable. But if it has a higher energy, okay, then it is less stable, okay? That's the difference of the two. So there are reactions, okay, that have very low activation energy and very stable product. So there's no need to control the reaction conditions. But some reactions like conjugated reactions, okay, have to be controlled, no? One will become the dominant product depending on the conditions, no? Now, the 1,2 product is usually a kinetic controlled product, okay? It will always be a kinetic controlled product. And in order for kinetic controlled product to have the right conditions, you have to lower the temperature so that the reaction becomes irreversible. And the controlling factor will be the barrier, no? So let us say negative 78 degrees, no? Or negative 45 degrees, okay? But if you raise the temperature to, let us say, 45 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Celsius, reactions will become reversible, okay? And the 1,4 will become the dominant product, okay? Now, we can also evaluate this in terms of stability, why the 1,2 is the kinetic controlled product. Because if you recall, where the halogen is attached, okay, here the bromine, that is where the carbonium ion is, okay? That's why you attach the nucleophile there. So you have a secondary allylic carbonium ion. But here, in the 1,4, this is the carbonium ion, which is primary. And we know that the secondary is more stable. So that's why it has a lower activation energy and therefore can easily be formed compared to the 1,4, okay? But there is another factor why the 1,4 is kinetically controlled product, not only because of the carbonium, but also because of the proximity effect. Take note that kinetics would be how fast the nucleophile, the electrophile will attack the double bond. So imagine you have the H plus here. Let us say from HBr. Okay? HBr is a covalent bond. So once the H plus is released, the Br minus is already positioned here. So you have a very close proximity. Whereas here, for the 1,4, the Br has to position here, which is quite far from the electrophile. So that's why most likely the Br minus will easily attack carbon number 2 rather than carbon number 4 because it is very close to the H plus. That is what you mean by proximity effect. Okay. Now, here in this example, the 1,4 is the thermodynamic product, and you have to set the conditions for it to be the major product. You raise the temperature, say 45 degrees Celsius, to become the reaction, to make the reaction reversible. Okay. But you have to take note, class, that although the 1,2 is always the kinetic product, it doesn't follow that the 1,4, okay, will always be the thermodynamic product. Sometimes the 1,2 is also the thermodynamic product. In this example, the 1,4 is definitely the thermodynamics. How do you assess the stability of the product here? You look at the double bond. No? There is what you call the Say-Sef rule. Okay. Now, what is this Say-Sef rule? Say-Sef, okay, assists the stability of the double bond. If there are more electron donating attached to the double bond, that will be very stable. Like if you place a methyl here, a methyl here, a methyl here, methyl are electron donating. They stabilize the double bond. So this will be more stable than if you only have R here, or R here. Okay, that will be more stable if you only have 2R like that, no? And more stable if you only have 1 like this. Okay, and the least stable would be the CH2. So in other words, the more alkyl groups attached to the double bond, the more stable. And look at the 1,4 plus. You have an alkyl group here. You have an alkyl group here. Whereas for the 1,2, the double bond, you only have the alkyl group here. So that's why in terms of thermodynamic stability, the 1,4 is more stable than the 1,2. Okay? But as what I have said, okay, the 1,2, okay, is not always the, I mean, the 1,4 is not always the thermodynamic product. Sometimes the 1,2 can also be the thermodynamic product. Okay. So for example, let's have a specific example here. Let's say you have this conjugated dienes. There. Okay, that is a conjugated diene. Excuse me, class. Hello? Yes? Oo. Sige, mamaya na kasi nagklase pa ako. Sige, mamaya na lang. Sige, okay. Okay. So, let's just say you have this conjugated double bonds. Okay. And we'll add HBr, for example, say HBr, hydrohalogenation reaction. So where are you going to place the electrophile? That's the first question first. Where are you going to attach the H plus? Are you going to attach it here and do the 1, 2, and 1, 4? Or are you going to attach the H plus here at the start to do the 1, 2, and the 1, 4? Right? That's the first thing that you're going to analyze. Because the positioning of the electrophile will change the products, the 1, 2, and the 1, 4. So you have to assess now. Let us say you place the H plus here. If you follow this, you will have your this one, you can predict, no? You can apply Markovnikov's rule here to easily predict where you are going to attach the electrophile because you have CH2 here. So therefore, you're going to attach the electrophile here, okay? And you will have the first product, the 1, 2. No problem with this one because we can apply Markovnikov's rule. So you have CH3, and then you have CH, Br. And then you have CH, double bond, CH3, CH3. So this is our 1, 2 product. The 1, 4 will be CH3. CH, double bond, and then you have your Br here. That's your 1, 4. Okay, now, which one is the kinetic control? Of course, the 1, 2. Right away is the kinetic, okay? Because of proximity effect. Now, which one is the thermodynamic product? Okay. So you analyze the stability of the double bond, okay, to assess thermodynamics. Is it the 1, 4? Let's see. The 1, 4 has this alkyl group, okay, and this alkyl group to stabilize the double bond. But the 1, 2 has this alkyl group, and this alkyl group. So you have 3 groups to stabilize the double bond. So therefore, the 1, 2 is more stable as a product compared to the 1, 4. So therefore, this is also the thermodynamic product, not the 1, 4. Okay? So meaning, if I put the condition here, let us say negative 45 degrees Celsius, then that is kinetic condition, then this will be your product. Okay? Now, if I change the condition to 45 degrees Celsius, so that's very high already, you have to look for the thermodynamic product. And what is the thermodynamic product? Yan din. Okay? So ganon, no? Pag determine ng product based on kinetic and thermodynamic conditions. Okay? So far we have discussed conjugate additions, okay? As well as addition of isolated double bonds, no? And triple bonds, okay? As well as those other pertinent reactions, no? Hydrogenation, halogenation, okay? Now, for hydrogenation reaction, okay, let's look at the hydrogenation a little bit closer, okay, for alkyne. Because alkyne has 2 pi bonds, no? So if you have, for example, propine, you react this, you subject this to hydrogenation reaction in excess. So meaning all the pi bonds will disappear in the presence of platinum catalyst. Then there is no control of the reaction. Definitely you will come up with propane. Now, if you want only 1 pi bond to be removed, you cannot use this reaction condition. It will always react with the 2 pi bonds. Okay. So in a control process in which only 1 pi bond will be hydrogenated, we use a special reagent which we call Lindlar's catalyst. Okay. A Lindlar's catalyst class is a combination of, it is actually a Poisson, you call that Poisson catalyst, because you have the hydrogen, gas, but it is mixed with palladium. No, you have palladium carbonate and you have quinoline combined with hydrogen just to lower the reactivity of the catalyst. No, so palladium was not used completely. It was mixed with precipitated in calcium carbonate as well as quinoline solvent. So you call that the Lindlar's catalyst. Okay. And if you use Lindlar's catalyst, okay, only 1 pi bond will react. So meaning alkene will not react. No? So let us say if you have this alkyne, 2-butyne, only 1. So you will end up with alkene. But you know, this alkene can exhibit geometric isomerism, right? Okay. 2-butene can generate cis and trans geometric isomer. Okay. So if we draw the cis of this one, you have methyl here, methyl, and then you have hydrogen, hydrogen. And the trans would be this one. There. Which of these 2 butenes is actually produced if you use Lindlar's catalyst? The Lindlar's catalyst, unlike the bromination reaction class, is described as cis addition. Okay? While the bromination is anti-addition. So because of the stereochemistry of the reaction, which is cis addition, the geometric isomer that will be produced will be the cis. There is no trans. Okay? If you want to produce the trans geometric isomer class rather than the cis, you cannot use the Lindlar's catalyst. You have to use another reagent, and this is sodium in the presence of liquid ammonia. Okay? You can also use lithium in the presence of liquid ammonia. Okay? When you use these reagents, this is also hydrogenation process. But the product that will be formed will be the trans, not the cis. So the reaction becomes stereospecific class, no? Because only one of the stereoisomers is produced. That is the meaning of stereospecificity, no? So therefore, if your reactant is alkene and you use Lindlar's, there is no reaction. If you use sodium in the presence of liquid ammonia and your reactant is alkene, again, there is no reaction, no? Because these 2 reagents will react only with alkyne. Okay, so there. So I think we're done with electrophilic addition reaction of alkenes and alkynes, no, as well as conjugated dienes and isolated diene, no. So before we end this, no, particular topic, let's see if you get some points in the reaction. No? Let's see if you can assist this one. Let's say you have this alkene. No? Supposing, okay, this kind of alkene will be attacked by an electrophile, H+, okay? Or this kind of alkene will be attacked by an electrophile. Where are you going to attach the electrophile? Here or here? Where are you going to attach the electrophile? Here or here? Okay. So in the first example, okay, if you attach the electrophile at carbon number 1, as I indicated, you will end up with this intermediate CH2, and the carbonium will be here, and you have OCH3. Okay. If you attach the electrophile here, you will have CH3, CH plus, and you have CH2, OCH3. Whereas here, if you attach the electrophile at number 1, you will have this intermediate. You will have the hydrogen here. And you will have the positive here, carbonium. If you attach the electrophile here, you will have the hydrogen here, the carbonium will be here, and you have the nitrogen. Okay. So, number 1, where do you think will be the attachment of the electrophile as indicated by the 2 intermediates? Where do you think will be the electrophile attached? It will be at carbon number what? Carbon number 1. Why carbon number 1? Because this carbonium will be stabilized by the neighboring lone pair. Okay? This carbonium here cannot be stabilized. Okay? Now, in the second example, where are you going to attach the electrophile? Okay? At carbon number 2. Okay? Why at number 2? Because the lone pair of nitrogen can stabilize the carbonium. Whereas here, it cannot be stabilized. Okay? So there. So we have done with electrophilic addition of alkenes and alkynes, no? And their reactivity, no? And the typical electrophilic addition reactions. So we have one more topic for the third exam, and that is electrophilic aromatic substitution, no? Of organic compounds. So aromatic compounds, no, you know already how to assess aromaticity. And of course, the main representative of that is the benzene. Okay, they're treated as alkenes, so that's why they don't undergo addition. Rather, they undergo substitution reaction. So to illustrate the mechanism of electrophilic aromatic substitution class, okay, you will have your electrophile here. And of course, the electrophile will attack the pi bond. Okay? So this pi bond, pi electron will interact with the electrophile, generating a carbonium ion intermediate. So again, we have a carbonium ion intermediate here. Okay? So this carbonium ion intermediate is stabilized by resonance, no? Because it is adjacent to the double bond. So you have a lot of resonance structures. But unlike the reaction of alkene and alkyne in which the pi bonds disappear, for aromatic reaction class, the pi bond has to be recovered at the end of the reaction. So in order for the pi bond to be recovered, the electron of the hydrogen will go to the carbonium ion to form the double bond. So the hydrogen now will leave the carbon as H+. So you have a double bond, double bond, double bond. You have the new attachment, electrophile, and you have the H+ kick out. So that's why the reaction is called electrophilic substitution. Okay. Now, since the intermediate is a carbonium ion, we can predict the reactivity of the reaction if you know how to assess the stability of the carbonium ion. The more stable the carbonium ion, the faster the rate of the reaction, because it will lower, okay, the activation energy. Okay. And what groups can stabilize the carbonium ion? Okay. Of course, electron donating group. Okay. So electron donating group can enhance the rate of substitution reaction, no? While electron withdrawing groups, okay, can lower the rate of substitution reaction, okay? Because electron withdrawing group can intensify the carbonium ion rather than neutralize it, okay? So knowing these two substituents, electron donating and electron withdrawing, you can predict now the possible rate of reaction, okay? So you know already how to assess electron donating. These are substituents that have lone pairs. They can donate electrons by resonance, okay? But there are also group like alkyl group that can donate electron by CH hyperconjugation, okay? Electron withdrawing groups, okay, are electron deficient. So they withdraw electrons either by negative inductive effect, like the halogens, okay, they are electron withdrawing group by inductive effect. But there are also groups that withdraw electrons by resonance, negative resonance, like the nitro group, the cyanide group, the sulfonic acid group, okay? So let's evaluate which donating group are very strongly electron donating, which are moderately electron donating, and which are weakly electron donating, okay? Similarly, for electron withdrawing, we can also classify them as strongly electron withdrawing, moderately electron withdrawing, and weakly electron withdrawing. Okay, so from that, you can assess the relative rates of the reactions. Okay, but then Okay. There is another aspect of electron aromatic substitution that you should know. Okay. Because after the first substitution, if you notice here, we only attach one electrophile. But there are still 5 remaining hydrogen in benzene that can be replaced by second electrophile, third electrophile, fourth electrophile. So the question now, okay, if we talk about second electrophile, where are you going to place the second electrophile? Are you going to place the second electrophile at the carbon number 2, adjacent to the first electrophile? You call that ortho position? Or are you going to place that at carbon number 3 relative to the first electrophile? You call that meta position. Or are you going to place that at carbon number 4? So you call that orientation of the reaction. And you will know that if you know the nature of the first electrophile. Okay? Is the first electrophile electron donating? Okay? Because if it is electron donating, it will direct the next electrophile at the ortho and para positions. So they are called, the first electrophile is called ortho para director. Okay? Now, if the first electrophile is an electron withdrawing group, then it will direct the next electrophile at the meta position, not at the ortho and para position. So electron withdrawing groups, therefore, are meta director because they will direct the next electrophile at the meta position, while the electron donating group will direct the electrophile at the ortho and para positions. Why is that? Why electron donating group can direct the next electrophile at the ortho and para position? Electrophiles are electron deficient. So the fact that it is attached at the ortho and para positions, it means to say that this carbon have higher electron densities compared to the meta. Okay? Whereas, if the benzene has an electron withdrawing group, okay, it directs the next electrophile at the meta, meaning the meta position has a higher electron density than the ortho and para if the first substituent is an electron withdrawing group. Okay? So you have to assess the first substituents. You should know whether it is an electron donating. Okay? Because if it is an electron donating, then it is an ortho para director. However, if the first substituent is electron withdrawing, then it will direct the next electrophile at the meta position. And it is a meta director. Okay? So, what are the common electrophiles in electrophilic aromatic substitution? Okay? So there are 5 basic electrophiles in electrophilic aromatic. Okay? One, you have NO2+. You call that nitronium ion. Another one is you have Cl+ and Br+. Okay? You call that chloronium ion and bromonium ion. And then we also have alkyl carbonium ion. Okay? Like for example, methyl carbonium ion. Okay? Ethyl carbonium ion is another electrophile. Okay? And other alkyl carbonium ion. Okay? And then we have sulfonium ion. No? SO3H. You call this sulfonium ion. And then finally, you have acyl carbonium ion. So these are the 5 basic electrophiles. And how are they generated? What are the sources? The nitronium ion is produced by mixing nitric acid with sulfuric acid. Okay. Chlorine, cation is formed by mixing chlorine with a Lewis acid. like ferric chloride, okay, bromine, okay, with ferric bromide. You can also use other Lewis acids like aluminum chloride or boron chloride, no? But the most common one, okay, are ferric chloride and aluminum chloride or bromide, no? Now for alkyl carbonium ion, let's have a specific example here, say methyl carbonium ion. To generate the methyl, you can use methyl chloride, again, in the presence of Lewis acid, no? Now for sulfonium ion, you can use sulfur trioxide mixed with concentrated sulfuric acid, okay? And finally, for acyl carbonium ion, okay, you can use acetyl chloride or ethanol chloride, okay, with a Lewis acid again, okay? So this is how the electrophiles are generated, okay? They are given a specific name. If you add NO2 plus as an electrophile, okay, the name is called nitration process. Okay? If you use chlorine, okay, or bromine, you call that halogenation. So this is the second type. Third type that we encounter halogenation. We have halogenation for alkane, which utilizes UV. We have halogenation in alkene and alkyne, which utilizes a nonpolar solvent like carbon tetrachloride. Dichloromethane can also be used. And then now we have halogenation in benzene, which utilizes chlorine in the presence of a Lewis acid. So you should be able to distinguish these three sets of reagents for the three types of reactions, okay? Now, the fourth one, okay, is what you call Friedel and Kraft alkylation reaction, okay? While the fourth one is what you call sulfonation reaction. And the last one is Friedel and Kraft acylation reaction, okay? So of all these reactions, class, okay, it is only the sulfonation reaction that is highly reversible, okay? The rest are irreversible or kinetic controlled reactions, okay? So the faster the rate, the greater the major product that will be formed from that, no? Because all of them are kinetic controlled or irreversible, except the sulfonation, which is highly reversible, okay? So I think I'll end up here and I will continue the lecture asynchronously, no? And then I'll give that to you, okay? So that's all, class, no? Do you have any concern? Wala naman. Kumusta naman yung exam nyo? Kumusta yung second long exam nyo? Ayos lang? Naka 50% ba? Ha? Naka 50% ba kayo sa second exam nyo? So, walang sumasagot. Nagsialisan na yung iba, oh. Bira lang nga tayo mag-meeting, nagsialisan na kaagad. Oh, sige kayo. Okay? So, bye.